Next, we're going to turn the time over to the superintendent's report. And it looks like you've got quite a bit of help helping you with this too. So turn the time over to you to introduce staff and that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Huntsman. We have packed report today. So we'll start with Art. I think Kathy Jensen is in the audience.
Thank you, Superintendent Kathy Jensen, Fine Arts Education Specialist. The art today is from 3 different schools in 3 different school districts, representing one of the very smallest schools in our state, Springdale Elementary. The Color Me collages are made from fabric and pastel by kindergarten and first grade students. Springdale Elementary is a 2-room school in the Washington County School District at the gates to Zion National Park. The last time I visited the school, they had just under 30 students. The backwall art is from East Lake Elementary in the Jordan School District and represents landscape silhouettes on watercolor sunsets. I think that the students use the watercolor pencils that we experimented with in this room at one of our prior meetings. It's very fitting for this time of year when we've experienced so many wonderful sunsets, and students learn that the sky is not always painted blue. Back to Springdale Elementary, the 3rd and 4th grade students studied continuous line and then added their study of colors. Keep in mind that each student in the combined 2 grades is displayed here. Now to Helen M. Knight in Grand County from the Look Where We Live project, where students learn all the landforms in the local area as part of their core and then visit Canyonlands or Arches National Park for a day of plein air painting. The art lesson integrates social studies, area history, natural science with the names and layers and geology, language as they write their experience and title their art, and of course, art. This year, 12 of the student paintings from HMK were submitted to the National Christmas Tree Project, sponsored by the National Parks. You are seeing some of those submissions. The one on the screen is the one that was chosen to be on the National Christmas Tree website. The images were printed on plastic discs, and all of the ornaments are on the Utah tree on the National Mall near the National Christmas Tree. Brinley Dooley was 9 and in the 3rd grade when she painted her piece, which is featured on the National Christmas Tree website and will be one of the ornaments on the big national tree. Brinley's piece is also in the Red Rock Art Collection, the student collection of art at HMK. As always, a thanks to the arts educators for engaging their students in the creative process and learning in and through the art, and to the partners at the universities and LEAs, as well as the USBE art team for their efforts in the monthly displays.
Thank you so much, Kathy. We were excited to see the National Christmas Tree Project continue. It's always fun to be represented back there. We'll go to new employees next. We have Michelle Watts here with us to introduce our new employees. Ryan, I think you'll have to exit out of the system.
Superintendent Dixon, while they're getting set up, could I just insert that these wonderful moments that we enjoy each month with our good friend Kathy Jensen are fast coming to a close. She is going to retire, as many of you saw in a communication that came to us. And I just wanted to say thank you today as she was going piece by piece, giving an explanation. I kind of felt a little nostalgic and thought, I'm going to miss this monthly encounter with these wonderful pieces of art from the children all across the state of Utah. Kathy, thanks so much for your tireless efforts to bring the art to us so that we can gain a greater appreciation for the magic that's happening in our classrooms across the state. We certainly wish you the very best in your future. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Booth. We were going to recognize her a little bit, so, and the art will continue, and Kathy's footprint across this great state has been massive and will be felt for many years to come. Thank you so much. Michelle, you ready?
I am. Thank you. Thank you. Michelle Watts, HR Director for USBE. And these are the new hires from November and December. Evan Baird, he's an Office Specialist 2 from Miami, Florida. Previously worked at Discover Card and Customer Service. Alicia Mormon, Executive Secretary from Southern California and previously worked at Young Living Essential Oils and was a trainer there. Sarah Cardenas Daniels, Educational Specialist from Salt Lake City, Utah, previously worked at Salt Lake City School District as a Behavioral Specialist. Daisy Rubio, General Services Specialist from Colorado, and previously worked at Utah Cleaning. Ellen McLaughlin, Office Specialist from Houston, Texas, previously worked at Squire and Company in sales. Kimberly Grimes, Executive Secretary from Price, Utah, previously was the owner of Great Gatherings and Company and did event planning and catering. Lisa Cooper, Financial Education Specialist from Salt Lake City, Utah, previously worked in the Diocese of Salt Lake City as a school accounting manager. Tara Rieto, Administrative Secretary from Redding, California, previously worked at Keller Williams in real estate. Faith Bastain, Child Nutrition Specialist, New York, previously worked at Cornell Cooperative as a SNAP Ed nutritionist. Henry Hartzell, IT software engineer from Minnesota, and he previously worked at Canyon School District as a 4th and 5th grade teacher. Lindsay Hirsch, Child Nutrition Specialist, Salt Lake City, previously worked in healthcare as a dietitian. Dean Dykstra, School Construction Specialist from Iowa, and previously worked at Granite School District as a Senior Project Manager. Timothy Welch, Financial Analyst from Ogden, Utah, previously worked at BT Mac Tech Group as a Finance and Operations Manager. Those are our new employees. We welcome them. Thank you.
We're so lucky to have all these great new employees. Thank you, Michelle. And I don't know about you all, but I love reading the little excerpts about them below. We find out all these hidden talents and the things that they're interested in. And we have this rich and wonderful staff here at USBE that we're all so grateful for. So we had, yes, sir, go ahead.
We usually give them a big round of applause for joining our team. Thank you, thank you.
Ryan, are you bringing up Employee of the Month, or do you want me to do that? That would be great. One thing I left on my desk were reading glasses. Working so well. Just lean back. You're also, you women who might be over 40 are so gracious to me. Thank you.
Who might be over 40?
Who might be. Never judging. Okay. So, very excited about this month's Employee of the Month. It's really hard to pull a fast one on Sarah Young. Oops, I'm not sure what happened. Yeah, I think she somehow jinxed that with her technology prowess. Sarah hates to be recognized, but we had Dr. Corey Conth submitted a, Employee of the Month recognition nomination for Sarah based on, this is just typical of what Chief of Staff Sarah Young does, but she was having a conversation with Dr. Conth, and Corey was indicating that she really wanted to promote our SOEP program and help people understand what it was, and rather than having to have that conversation on the phone and in person all the time, that perhaps it would be great to do a video to help people understand what it is. And so Sarah not only gave some ideas, but leaned in and really took charge and helped create and edit and perform in the video. Corey was so impressed that on the day that it was all happening here at the office, Sarah's car happened to be in the shop, and so she took an Uber to get here and made everything happen, and it turned out just great. So we invited Sarah to our Employee of the Month meeting this week and surprised her. That was the most fun of all. And we just appreciate the great work of Sarah as our Chief of Staff. The way that Corey described her is the way that all of our employees feel about her. And she keeps us afloat and really ties everything together for us as an agency. And we love and appreciate Sarah, and we're really proud of her and proud of her receiving this award. Okay, next, do you want me to just drive, Ryan, since I have that up? Since we're a little bit limited on time, I had 3 or 4 things I want to talk about, but I'm really excited to share with you a project that I'm not sure that we've put in front of the entire board. I think we've talked about this in standards and assessment. But we have an opportunity today to honor some of our principal supervisors. We talk about our principals, not nearly enough, but we talk about them. We support them, and we've started a project of a cohort of principal supervisors. There are some in this room who have been in that role, and nobody really prepares you for that. And so Rachel College, Rachel, if you would stand. Rachel is our amazing staff member who leads this project, and we thought it would be great to have an opportunity for our principals to nominate supervisors and then have them receive this award. So we're going to go through our 4 awardees today, and I think they're online and present with us. We're going to start with Tracy Robbins from Davis School District, who's in the audience. Tracy, will you stand and be recognized? Tracy. So generally, I would say never do for adults what they can do for themselves by reading, but I want everybody who might be online to hear about Tracy. She's amazing. She was nominated by Principal Whitaker at Foxborough Elementary. Tracy's an elementary school director with 27 years of experience. She believes that principals have an even greater impact than previously thought, benefiting not only student learning and attendance, but also teacher satisfaction and retention. Effective principals are responsible for establishing a school-wide vision of commitment to high standards and the success of all students. Because of this belief, Tracy's focus has always been on how to support school principals in improving teaching and learning in their schools by helping them focus on what matters most. That is what is best for students. Congratulations, Tracy. Next, we have Nate Esplin from Washington County, and I think Nate was on a little bit earlier. Not sure if he's still online. Nate was nominated by Principal Baker at Crimson View Elementary. Nate grew up in Santa Clara, Utah, where he attended Santa Clara Elementary and later graduated from Snow Canyon High School. He earned a PhD in education from Utah State University. Go Ags. Nate started his education career by teaching fourth grade at Coral Cliffs Elementary School. He then spent 6 years as the principal of Sunset Elementary, which later became one of the first Utah STEM Platinum schools. He's currently the Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education at Washington County School District. Nate and his wife, Kat, are the proud parents of 5 boys and 1 girl. Congratulations to Nate. Next, we have Christine Fitzgerald. Christy, we can see you online. Thank you. Beautiful backdrop. Christy was nominated by Principal Schaefer, Kim Schaefer at Whitehorse High School. Christy is an experienced educator, curriculum expert, and inclusive leader. Driven by her passion for equitable outcomes, she has addressed gaps in educational access through a systems-wide approach. As an assistant superintendent and principal supervisor, her work is driven by the belief that leadership is a process of social influence that leverages strengths and individual growth toward goal achievement. Christy has been recognized as an advocate for women in leadership and equity in education for Indigenous students. She is excited about completing her doctorate in organizational leadership next year. She currently lives in the Navajo Nation and loves working for San Juan School District. Congratulations, Christy. Thanks for joining us. No, it's so beautiful. Last but not least, Superintendent John Dodds from Garfield County School District. He was nominated by Principal Peterson at Bryce Valley Elementary. Superintendent Dodds began his career in education as a middle-level science teacher and high school wrestling coach. His passion for instructional leadership was sparked by his involvement with Utah Schools to Watch, which Kathy Jensen, by the way, led for many years, where he was able to see how schools committed to best practices gave students a significant advantage in academic achievement. As a new superintendent during the unprecedented challenges of the coronavirus pandemic, Mr. Dodds has kept a focus on building relationships with students, faculty, and staff. Superintendent Dodds is passionate about student learning and is committed to protecting what works in education while finding new and innovative ways to prepare students for professions that currently do not exist. Congratulations, Superintendent Dodds. So I want to say just a little bit about the, oops, sorry, trying to get out of this. Not letting me escape, sorry. I wanted to say just a little bit about all 4 of these individuals. I have had the opportunity to work with them and to be in their presence and to talk to the people that they serve. And they really are excellent leaders and support principals. I had the opportunity to go with Katie Hill and visit a principal this week, and I loved what a teacher said about this principal, and I think it applies to these supervisors of principals. The teacher said, under the leadership of this principal, I have had more personal growth than in my entire career, and this was a veteran teacher. She said, this principal sets, saving names because I didn't get their permission to share this, but she said the principal sets the bar very high, and then she gives me the tools and the support I need to reach those standards. And I think that's true of these supervisors. As I have watched them in action, they really set high standards for their principals so that our students can achieve. And by setting those high standards, they then support them with coaching and the tools and resources they need to be excellent principals. And they play a role that we just haven't talked about and goes unnoticed. Sometimes we think of that evaluation part, and we don't stop to think about the setting of expectations and the support. So these 4 have been nominated by principals whom they supervise to showcase the way that they provide support. So thank you, Rachel, for putting this together for the cohort that you lead of principal supervisors and the professional development. I think we're up to 140 hours. We're headed to 140 hours of support. So really massive amounts of support that's being provided to these principal supervisors. And that's something that was initiated out of our office, and really appreciate Rachel's leadership. I'm now going to shift gears and go sit with our employee of the month, and we are going to tag team on the next part. So based on the way we're dressed, I'm sure you were hoping for a duet. I saw some jingle bells over there in the corner, and we'll spare you our lack of musical talent. But we are really excited today to showcase the update on the strategic plan. And I think we have a slide deck of about 45 slides and 5 minutes to get through it. So we are going to showcase some of the highlights. I want to just start by saying, oh gosh, suddenly felt emotional. I'm really proud to work for a board that has a strategic plan. I've been in this great vocation as an educator for a few decades now, and having a strategic plan has meant the world. I've seen how it's made such a difference in our system. So thank you for doing the hard work of having a strategic plan. For those of you who will be doing the hard work of revisiting the strategic plan in 23, I just want you to know from the bottom of my heart how important it is to our system, to our students, our families, our educators to have a strategic plan. Don't know why I felt emotional about that. Nobody ever gets emotional over a strategic plan unless you're super tired of working on a strategic plan. Then it's a different kind of emotion. All right, so when we think about the why, we do have a statute and bylaws that tell us we have to have one, and we're supposed to review it. So we're reviewing that with you today, and you've heard me bring slices of the strategic plan to you when I give you updates about the stock takes that we take internally. But we do hold ourselves accountable, and as a board, this is part of holding you and us together accountable through what is required by statute and bylaws. And so not only are we supposed to create and maintain and review and do so, but then we're supposed to be reviewing how does that turn out in terms of student outcomes. I recently heard, and some of you may have heard this gentleman speak at Excel and Ed. He does some work in training boards out of the state of Texas. He trains a lot of local boards. And he will always ask the question, how much of your time is spent focused on student outcomes and talking about student outcomes? And I think I heard him say, it's sometimes it gets to be around 6% of time spent on student outcomes. So having a strategic plan that's really focused on those goals that get us there is critical in reviewing that. I'm recalling back to those of you who did this work, Janet Cannon, I want to give you a shout out because I know you love the work of strategic planning. And I remember focusing on these terms and what they meant and what is the cascading effect of all of this. And I remember there was consensus around the importance of having a vision. What do we aspire to as a board? And then, how do we get there? What is it that we do and how do we do that? That was the mission. And it is the mission of what we do. And then really thinking about, so what are the goals that will get us there and how does that align our efforts towards that end? You can see in this chart all of these definitions and then really why it matters. Why even have a strategic plan? I really didn't plan those tiers for dramatic effect, but it is really, it's important, and you can see all of those elements to the strategic plan. I've been a part of planning over the years where we worked hard to come up with a nice phrase on a plaque somewhere on a wall. And whether you have a strategic plan for your business or for the work that you do, if it's just a nice phrase, it doesn't matter, right? It leads to nothing. So these metrics that we set up at the time were pretty robust. And I remember having the discussion about, well, who deserves to have be proficient in literacy and math and science and who deserves to get an ACT? And we all said, 100% of our students deserve this. Who's the child that you point out and say, well, you don't deserve that? 100% of our students deserve to have a quality education. So we looked at where we were at. We took that baseline. We said, this is where we're at. This is 100%. And in 5 years, let's try to cut that by a third. And you see a lot of metrics that just eke out 1% at a time. And by then, decades of our students have gone through the system. So we said, let's be more robust and meet those goals. So that's what these percentages are. Excuse me. So where are we today? Well, you can see that we're not meeting most of these goals. However, if you look at the data that I'm going to show you in a minute, 2019, we were on the trajectory to get there. You know, we were moving along in most areas. And then we had this thing called the pandemic. And if you look across the nation, you'll see what I would call dives in the data. For us, it's more of a dip. We stayed steady with high school graduation and a few metrics that we'll talk about in a minute as we look at ACTs. But, you know, are we moving forward? Yes, we're moving in the right direction. But the disruption definitely impacted our data. So you can see our ACT scores. You've heard those highlighted recently in national media. We not only held steady, but we are number one for the states who test at least 90% of their students. And one of the metrics we haven't always done well on that we did well this last time were those 4 college-ready benchmarks. The percentage of students who hit all of those benchmarks that are determined by the College Board and by ACT, we did very well, and I think we were number one in that category as well for those who test 90% of their students. So you can see on NAEP, again, we gained national attention. It's sort of interesting to gain national attention for holding steady and not dropping as much as the rest of the nation, but that's a story in itself. That's a really important narrative to say that we didn't let our foot off the gas, but we kept going and supporting. Part of it is being able to keep students in school, even though there were many disruptions. But our teachers, our educators had their eye on the prize to keep moving, keep their foot on the gas. So you can see here the comparisons with reading, 4th and 8th grade reading and math scores. And we went back to 1998, so you could kind of see this comparison. Keep date is another important data point that we use and measure how our students are entering and exiting kindergarten. And it gives us a lot of data, helps our kindergarten teachers get off to a great start with our students and move them forward. So you can see from 2018 to 2022 when we started the KEEP assessment back in 2018. And just again, that little dip during the pandemic. Here again, we have the RISE data. I'll let you just look at that for a minute. And then the math data from RISE. Aspire Plus. And next to ACT. Oh, sorry, missed 10th grade. We'll just quickly move through these. So that leads us to the 4 goals that, that we set forward to impact all of these data points. And those aren't the only data points. There are a lot of qualitative data points that we share and bring together, but these 4 goals are very important in terms of moving things forward. And we're going to talk about why these matter. I'm really proud that so many people in the field and in our legislature and in the community can name those 4 goals, not word for word, but they can tell you the 4 areas that the board is focused on. And that is a really important data point in itself. So, Sarah, I'm probably just walking all over where you're supposed to. Okay, all right. So I touched on this right at the beginning. As an underscore, I want to talk about a little bit about why this has been an important driving force for the board. This has really driven and prioritized the work of the agency, and it's united you. You know, I love how the wrangling around these 4 goal areas is just sometimes the what and the how much, but the fact that you have been united around these efforts has been really profound. And it has played out in the legislature. We'll show some evidence of that here in a bit. But there's no question when we come forward with our budget priorities, it used to be kind of a Christmas tree ornament list, and now they're really prioritized around the strategic plan, and it's played out well for us. And I so appreciate these efforts around these 4 areas. And it really has advanced not only legislation, but policy change internally and out in our system as well. And then what does that mean for our agency? Well, you can see how much it means to me as your state superintendent, but as a system, it really has driven the work. We're seeing efforts around early learning and literacy and effective teachers and leaders and personalized learning all throughout the state because they see we're one system moving together. So internally, it makes our charge very clear. The one thing I want to point out that I've been really appreciative of, and Sarah, as our chief of staff, her primary role in her job description is to really keep us accountable for the strategic plan and to keep that moving. So you will see in a minute on a graphic organizer the way that we have established cross-functional strategy teams, and then we monitor ourselves. We hold ourselves accountable. You've heard me talk about stock takes and some meetings, and we do ask ourselves the questions of how are we moving forward? What strategies are we using to move the board's initiatives forward? And then we embed these into our evaluations. So our the UPM system, the Utah Personnel Management System, where we set our goals and are evaluated on those goals. You now do that with me in the UPM system. So we embed these goals into our evaluation systems throughout the agency. So I want you to see how seriously we take this as an agency. It really is our driving force. So Sarah's going to describe to you how we've organized the agency around these cross-collaborative teams.
So thank you, Superintendent. Excuse me, Sarah Young, Chief of Staff. This visual. Oh. I don't think I can. But thank you. It really is an honor. We have such amazing staff here. And actually, that's one of the reasons that I love this graphic, is because it really helps to highlight the fact that this is a team effort. You see Superintendent and I up here being able to speak with you on behalf of the strategic plan, but we are here representing the entire agency who works on different components and elements of this comprehensive effort. So you can see here that we have strategy leads, we have goal leaders, and then we have a very formalized system of being able to check in on progress related to performance plans, outcomes, and making sure that we are truly taking those innovative next steps that the board has charged our agency with to be able to come back to you and provide you these progress updates. So in terms of our goals, strategies, and kind of updates, honestly, I could probably fill another 2 hours being able to share with you all of the amazing things that are happening related to your strategic plan. But noting that there's other board business today, I'm going to quickly go through each of the goals and highlight one key outcome for this particular calendar year, as well as an upcoming milestone that we're excited about that we want to share with you in terms of what's next, so that you can have that component. So as a friendly reminder for early learning, we do have 4 strategies underneath early learning to be able to make sure that each student starts strong in the early grades with foundations in literacy and numeracy. It is not unintentional that we choose to highlight our strategy 1B, which is specific to the expansion and the receiving of funds and resources to be able to make more opportunities available related to optional all-day kindergarten to the families and students of Utah. I think this is one where, for me, it really shows how the board's strategic plan is changing the landscape of what our parents have access to and what our families and our students have access to in terms of learning. Those resources have not only opened up opportunities for families to be able to engage their students when chosen, but also have really identified this greater need with waiting lists of additional families who are waiting to be there. Which brings me to the upcoming milestone that I like to highlight for this one, which is the fact that the board has now prioritized some additional funding requests to be able to provide additional resources to our LEAs to truly make that a reality. I think this is one of the key hallmarks and highlights of the board's strategic plan in terms of demonstrating how that plan has turned into action and is changing the landscape of Utah. In terms of goal 2, effective educators and leaders, I would be remiss if I didn't share the goal leader. Assistant Superintendent Darren Nielsen always begins with, this is the most important goal, in a friendly rivalry with the other goal leaders. In terms of looking at all of the different components, this is also where you're going to see most of our strategies, recognizing that a lot of the work our agency does is focused around supporting our teachers and our principals in terms of maintaining the system. Again, many highlights that we could share, but we're going to focus in on a recent one that was shared in Standards and Assessment Committee in more detail detail, but was the release of the Utah 2022 Educator Engagement Survey Report. It's incredibly important that as a system, we know how our teachers are doing. And this survey is what creates the opportunity for this agency to have the information necessary to be able to take action, make recommendations, look at available resources, and target those resources in very specific ways to serve the educators for our greater system. You'll see that one of the key outcomes of that survey was an identification of what can we do to really focus on mentoring programs and provide more support materials so that each of our LEAs doesn't have to create those independently to support their individual teachers. This is a key aspect of another product that has come from the strategic plan, and you'll see all of the products that our staff have created highlighted in the comprehensive report that was included in backup. Goal 3, we have safe and healthy schools, always top of mind when it comes to the work that we're doing, making sure that we have safe environments for our students and our families and our kids to be able to engage within. In terms of progress to date, the one I will highlight for this goal is our model policy for wellness, which was published to be able to provide a model for the LEAs to consider about how they can look at what could sometimes seem as separate strategies around how we're supporting substance abuse prevention or working with our teachers in terms of making sure our students know how to respond in safe and healthy ways related to social pressures or digital pressures. This really looks at how do we weave those together into a comprehensive effort so that we don't have these individual silos, but instead a really comprehensive effort that can move forward. It is a model that is being shared with our LEAs, and in terms of an upcoming milestone, we do have 6 LEAs that are across the state who've agreed to pilot this model wellness policy within their LEA to help inform and provide feedback that really will then benefit all of the LEAs in terms of having something they can look at and say, what aspects of this make sense for my community to be able to create that comprehensive, safe, and healthy school. Last but not least, we have goal 4, which is our personalized teaching and learning. In terms of our efforts to be able to make sure that every student has access to these personalized teaching and learning experiences, one of the most innovative goals that we have that really made us stand out as different, and you as a board stand out as innovative and really kind of pushing the envelope for what's coming in the future for education and preparing our system for those changes. The progress to date, I'd just like to highlight a partnership between our agency as well as our partners at the Utah Education Network, where they're working on a PCBL hub. This is an area where we are looking to not just provide supports for the system, but supports for teachers in terms of really being able to bring those personalized teaching and learning and PCBL experiences to the kids and families that they serve. In order to help facilitate the launch of that resource, the Magellan Summit is coming. This is a new experience that the agency will be hosting in January of 2023, which brings together educators, leaders, and individuals from across the state to really engage in a conversation about Utah's Portrait of a Graduate, PCBL resources, and how we can collectively create a community to share those resources to really help advance this goal area across the state of Utah. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the superintendent for final comments.
Thank you, Sarah. Just for sake of time, we're going to end here. I appreciate you all up front trying to look at your agenda and figure out how to save time. But it's important to look at this last slide of next steps. So here are 4 things that we ask you to consider, 4 main areas. The first, we've had conversations in connection to an audit about aligning code with the strategic plan, and you've given permission for Deputy Stallings to move forward in working on that alignment with our legislature. So we'll be bringing that back to you for your formal approval. The second is that we're at that 5-year mark. So in 2023, we'll be looking at these education elevated measures and goals. And we have people on the Hill who are very interested. We work with legislative staff because we report to them as well as outlined in statute. So really thinking about, as we look at some of our initiatives, how do we redesign these measures and along with our accountability system. So again, you've heard this report from Darren, you'll be hearing more. So these metrics need to probably shift as well and rethink the metrics. The third area is to consider amendments to existing goals. For example, we've been reporting to you on a lot of internal controls and core functions. So should those be part of the strategic plan, or should those be part of the goals? And then really, we've learned a lot over the last 5 years. So what are some recommendations that we might have for you and you might have for us as we think about the existing goals that we have? And then last but not least, what I think it's the bylaw. I don't know if it's the bylaw statute. I think it's the bylaw that says report regularly to the board. Well, what does regularly mean? So we've been a little bit sporadic. Should that be a standing place? Should it have a standing place on every month's board meeting? Or we just need you to define what regular means instead of the way that we're doing it now. So those are kind of the 4 main areas of next steps that we ask you to consider. And that is our report, sir. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Superintendent and Chief of Staff, Sarah Young. We appreciate the extra slides in there too that will help us with some reading and also a really good briefing, so thank you. Board members, I'm going to move item 4 to be after agenda item number 5. But before we start agenda item number 5, we're going to take about a 5 to 7 minute quick break because the next agenda item we're going to be pushing through, and we've got a couple hours allotted for that. So, and also, this being the last board meeting, unless we have a special one, I'm going to be turning the gavel over to the vice chairs at different portions of the meeting as they finish up their duties on this particular assignment. So right after the break, Vice Chair Belknap will be chairing up the next portion of the meeting. So quick break, take advantage of it. We got a lot of work to do as soon as we get back. So thank you. About 5 to 7 minutes.